What if one day you lost everything? Your money, your home, your reputation. Who in your family would still stay? Jonathan was a billionaire, a beautiful wife, a famous daughter, a home like a palace. But then, he made a choice to fake his downfall, to lose it all, just to answer one question. Do they love me or just my money? The result, no one in his family knew. This wasn't a collapse. It was the most painful test of his life. And what his wife and daughter did next will leave you speechless. The rain tapped steadily on the glass roof of the luxurious mansion, like a whisper carrying the weight of a secret about to be revealed. In a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows, a middle-aged man in a gray suit stood silently, staring out into the pitch-black courtyard. No one in the house knew that today was the day Jonathan had decided to bury the lies. He was once the man who could shake financial markets with a single phone call. Owner of real estate chains, energy conglomerates, shares in dozens of companies. He lacked nothing except real love in his own family. His wife, Linda, used to be a sweet girl, but now she only smiled when a credit card went beep. His daughter, Emily, lived like a modern-day princess. Avocado toast for breakfast, live streaming designer unboxings for dinner. Only his youngest son, Noah, would quietly peek at him from behind the door. "Are you okay, Dad?" Jonathan would nod, but inside, he was breaking. That evening, during dinner, Linda said nothing. Emily giggled at her phone. Only Noah glanced at him with concern. "You seem sad, Dad. Are you tired?" "I'm fine, son. Everything's okay." The last sweet lie. That night after everyone had gone to bed, Jonathan made a call to Chris, his closest assistant, the one who handled everything from billion-dollar contracts to confidential charity files. "Get ready, move all assets to a private account, suspend all company operations, freeze the cards, shut down the mansion. I'm going to disappear, as if I really lost everything." "Are you serious, sir? This will shock your wife and kids. The media will start speculating. No one can know. This isn't for the press. I need to know if they're here for me or just the money." Chris paused for a few seconds, then exhaled deeply. "I'll begin the preparations." The next morning, the cold silence of the mansion was broken by hurried footsteps. Jonathan called the whole family down to the living room. Linda dragged herself in wearing silk pajamas, holding a detox smoothie. Emily walked in mid-live stream. "Good morning, fam." "Why did you call us so early? I haven't even finished my skincare," Linda grumbled. "I'm live right now, Dad." Emily waved him off. Jonathan stood tall, his face calm, almost too calm. "I have bad news. We lost everything." Linda froze. Emily looked up. "Lost what?" "The company collapsed. Our accounts have been frozen. All our assets have been seized. We have nothing left." 1 second of silence. Then Linda screamed, "Are you insane? What do you mean by lost everything? What about this mansion?" "It'll be repossessed. We have to leave today." Emily screamed louder. "Oh my God, you expect Emily to live in the countryside? With no Wi-Fi?" Jonathan nodded. "We have one place left. My father's old cottage in the village." Linda jumped to her feet. "You're pathetic. I will never set foot in anything called a village. I'm Linda Carter. I wasn't born to live in mud and dust." Emily nearly cried, "Dad, I have thousands of followers waiting for my bag unboxing livestream." Only Noah remained seated, calm. "Dad, did you really lose everything?" Jonathan nodded, eyes meeting his son's. Noah stood up, walked over to him, and gently held his father's hand. "It's okay, Dad. We'll get through this. I believe in you." "For the first time in a year," Jonathan cried. Not because of lost wealth, but because someone still stayed and meant it. The mansion was silent when they left. No chefs, no housekeepers, no soft-spoken chauffeurs opening the car door. Just an old second-hand sedan Jonathan had quietly purchased for the plan, its engine coughing as it started. In the back seat, Linda sat with her arms crossed, wearing oversized sunglasses like armor. Emily had headphones on, lips curled in disgust, her phone still searching for signal. Only Noah seemed at peace, gazing out the window, letting the warm breeze hit his face. They drove for hours. The further they went, the more the world changed. Glass towers became rusted roofs, paved roads turned to dust, and city noise faded into the chirping of crickets. Finally, the car turned onto a narrow dirt path lined with banana trees and broken fences. At the end stood a small mud brick house with a rusty tin roof. The compound was bare, with 2 plastic chairs and an old clothesline dancing in the wind. Jonathan stepped out of the car and breathed in deeply. This was his father's house. This was where it would all begin. Linda stepped out last, high heels sinking into the dirt. "You're kidding," she muttered. "This can't be real." Emily opened the car door and immediately covered her nose. "Oh my God, it smells like something died. Is that smoke? Where's the Wi-Fi?" Jonathan ignored them and began unloading bags from the trunk. Noah got out and helped immediately, carrying one bag after the other with quiet strength. Inside, the house was exactly as he remembered. 2 rooms, 1 flickering bulb, a kitchen made of stones, no air conditioning, no refrigerator. The living room had cobwebs, a wooden table, no curtains. Linda refused to enter. "I'm not sleeping here. I'd rather die." Emily circled the room like it was a crime scene. "Where's the mirror? Where do I plug my straightener? How do people even live like this?" Jonathan calmly laid a thin mattress on the floor and said, "This is all we have now." Linda hissed. "All you have. You brought this on us." That night, the 4 of them lay shoulder to shoulder on the floor under a torn mosquito net. A small kerosene lantern flickered nearby, casting shadows across the room. Linda tossed and turned, slapping at mosquitoes. Emily groaned every 10 minutes. Only Noah whispered, "Dad, I know this is hard, but we'll get through it. I'm with you." Jonathan turned, looking into his son's eyes in the dark. "Thank you," he whispered. "You don't know what that means to me." For the first time in years, Jonathan felt something he had forgotten. Real warmth. Not from a fireplace or silk sheets, but from a son who didn't need money to love him. The next morning, a rooster screamed like it had been possessed. Linda sat up, hair wild, mascara smeared. What kind of demon bird screams at 5 a.m.? Jonathan stretched and stood. "It's morning. We start fresh." Emily stumbled out of the room, scratching her arms. "I didn't sleep. I'm covered in bites. My skin is ruined." Jonathan picked up an old hoe from the corner. "If we want to eat, we have to work. There's land behind the house. We'll start farming." Linda burst into hysterical laughter. "You want me to go to the farm with these hands? These hands have held champagne glasses in Dubai." Emily folded her arms. "Farming? I'll rather starve." But before Jonathan could respond, Noah walked forward and reached for the hoe. "Let's go, Dad. I'll work with you." Jonathan's lips trembled. He swallowed hard. "Let's go, son." Under the brutal sun, father and son worked in silence, digging the dry soil, planting cassava, wiping sweat with their sleeves. Jonathan's back ached. His palms bled. But he smiled, because Noah was still beside him. Back at the house, Linda sat under a mango tree, fanning herself with a palm leaf, muttering, "This isn't life. This is a punishment." Emily was pacing with her dead phone in hand. No TikTok, no Snap, no freaking life. And still, the day was only beginning. That evening, Jonathan tried to boil water outside. His hands fumbled with the firewood. The flame kept dying. Noah came up beside him. "Let me try." He rearranged the sticks and blew gently into the ashes until the fire came alive. "I watched the village boys do this during holidays," Noah said quietly. Jonathan nodded. "You're saving me, son." And he meant every word. But while father and son toiled, the masks in the family began to fall. Linda noticed a man under the mango tree across the compound, dressed in bright native attire, gold chain glinting, belly full, surrounded by giggling young women. The village chief, Mr. Okoro. Her eyes narrowed. "He looks rich," she whispered. Emily turned. "That's how chiefs dress here? He's literally shining." Linda stood up, adjusted her scarf, and began walking toward him, hips swaying, voice suddenly softer. "Good afternoon, sir," she said sweetly. "I'm new here, and it's been hard. My husband lost everything." Mr. Okoro smiled widely. "A fine woman like you should not suffer. Sit with me." And just like that, her betrayal began. Meanwhile, Emily found her own distraction at the village bar. Mr. Felix, a married man with money and too much charm. He whispered promises of city-style comfort if she would just Visit him sometimes. And she agreed. Just keep your wife out of it, she told him. Deal, he smiled, already placing his hand on her shoulder. Back at home, Jonathan sat outside with Noah under the moonlight. Dad, Noah said, do you think we'll ever go back to the city? Jonathan looked at the stars. Maybe, but not until I know who deserves to come with me. By the third day, the village no longer felt like a temporary stop. It felt like a sentence. The heat was unrelenting. The air was thick with the scent of sweat, smoke, and distant livestock. The novelty of roughing it had worn off for Linda and Emily, replaced by bitter resentment and desperation. Linda now spent most of her afternoons sitting under the mango tree, pretending to be dizzy from hunger while carefully watching for Mr. Okoro's arrival. When he came, she transformed. Her voice became gentle, her posture graceful, her smile wide. She no longer wore her plain wrappers, but tied her best scarf, sprayed perfume from a bottle she'd hidden, and even wore a pair of dangling earrings meant for a wedding reception. And Mr. Okoro, he noticed. You are more beautiful each time I see you, he said, sliding a cold malt drink toward her under the shade of his hut. Linda giggled, leaning closer. You don't know what I've suffered in that house. My husband has nothing left. I'm practically surviving on crumbs. Mr. Okoro laughed. You deserve better. I want to give you a house. I want to make you my queen. She blinked. You're serious? Very. In fact, when the village king dies, I've already been chosen to replace him. I've given the elders goats and rice. They're already on my side. Linda gasped. Queen, a palace, maids, beads and silk. Suddenly, Jonathan's dusty compound faded in her mind. You're the only man who truly sees me, she whispered. Mr. Okoro reached into a bag and pulled out a small bundle of money. Use this. Buy what you need. Next week, we begin building your new house. She took the money like a treasure. You're an angel. Meanwhile, Emily was building her own empire of deceit, one married man at a time. Mr. Felix had promised her a city-style life. New slippers, cash, beauty creams. On his best days, a plate of jollof rice with grilled meat. He took her to a path behind his shop, far from prying eyes, and whispered compliments he'd used a dozen times before. Emily didn't care. As long as I look better than the women in this village, she often said to herself, I win. But she was beginning to forget that secrets in a village never stay buried. One hot afternoon, Emily sat outside the house in a tight, shiny red dress. One Mr. Felix had gifted her the night before. She crossed her legs, chewing gum, scrolling aimlessly on her phone, even though there was no signal. Suddenly, a voice thundered across the compound. You shameless thing! Come out here! Emily looked up lazily. A woman stormed through the gate. Her wrapper was tied high, her eyes blazing with fire. It was Mrs. Felix. Where is that rat sleeping with my husband? Emily stood up, hands on her hips. Who's shouting like a mad woman in this compound? You! Stay away from my husband or I will drag you through this entire village. Emily laughed. Your husband came to me. Maybe you should look in the mirror before you come for me. You home wrecker! Mrs. Felix lunged. Jonathan, who had been sitting quietly at the back, heard it all. He stepped forward, calm but firm. Emily! She froze, slowly turned. Dad! I heard everything. Is it true? Emily rolled her eyes. So what if it is? You're sleeping with a married man. He gives me what I need. At least someone does. Jonathan's voice broke. Emily, my daughter, this is wrong. What's wrong is you. You ruined our lives. I used to have everything. Now look at me. You dragged us into this shame. Jonathan's hands trembled. I know things are hard, but... No but, Dad. I hate this life. And I hate you for giving it to me. She stormed inside. Jonathan didn't follow. That night, Jonathan sat alone in the yard. The stars above sparkled, but he couldn't feel them. His daughter hated him. His wife had vanished most of the day. He was losing more than money. He was losing his family. Noah quietly stepped outside. She didn't mean it, he said gently. Jonathan didn't answer. Dad, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I'm still here. I'm still with you. Jonathan turned to him, voice barely a whisper. Thank you, Noah. You have no idea what that means to me. The next morning, Noah stood near the doorway, watching his mother dress up again. Scarf perfectly tied, earrings matched, a little lipstick applied. Where are you going, Mom? Out. Out where? She shot him a cold glance. Don't start, Noah. You're sounding like your father. He's still your husband. She laughed bitterly. He used to be. Now, he's just a man with empty pockets. You think that makes him less of a man? Linda didn't answer. Noah stepped closer. You're following a man with gold chains and lies. You traded dignity for coins. Linda's eyes sharpened. Watch your mouth, Noah. I'm still your mother. And that's why I'm begging you. Come back to yourself before it's too late. Linda grabbed her bag and slammed the door, but it was already too late. That same afternoon, Mrs. Miriam, one of Mr. Okoro's wives, waited on the side of the road. She'd heard rumors. She'd seen the glances. She was ready. When Linda approached, humming happily with dreams in her eyes, Mrs. Miriam stepped into her path. Husband snatcher, so this is the road you take to my man. Linda blinked. Excuse me? You think I don't know? You've been sneaking around, playing queen with my husband. Get out of my way, you local jealous woman. Jealous of what? A desperate city woman clinging to fake gold? The fight escalated. Words turned to slaps. Dust filled the air. Passers-by stopped and watched as Linda, once the wife of a billionaire, was dragged by her rapper in the middle of the road. Come see the city woman fighting for sugar daddies. She said she was a queen. Now she's eating sand. Linda tore herself free and ran to the lodge where Mr. Okoro usually waited. She banged on the door and burst in. What is the meaning of this? Mr. Okoro looked up from his plate of meat, unimpressed. What happened? Your wife just attacked me in the street. She said your gold is fake, that you're a fraud. He wiped his mouth slowly. And? Is it true? He stood. Listen, woman, I never forced you to come to me. You left your husband for nothing. You betrayed your family for dreams. She stepped back. You used me. You used yourself. I gave you attention. That's all you ever wanted. You told me I'd be queen. He chuckled coldly. Maybe in your next life. He opened the door. Now get out! As Linda walked home, bruised, humiliated, and covered in dust, she heard the whispers all around her. That's the woman. The city one. Fighting over men. Lost everything. She walked faster, but the shame followed her like a shadow. And waiting for her at the compound was Jonathan. He didn't say anything for a long moment, just looked at her with quiet devastation. Then finally, I am ashamed of you. Linda looked up, eyes burning. You have no right. I have every right. You were my wife. Now, I don't know who you are. And he walked away. The morning after the roadside humiliation, the compound was quieter than usual. Linda sat outside on a low wooden stool, her scarf pulled over her head, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes. No one said a word to her. Not the neighbors passing by, not the village kids fetching water, and certainly not Jonathan. He emerged from the house holding a small bag and quietly told Noah, "Pack your things. We leave at noon." Noah blinked. "Where are we going?" "Back to the city. I have work." From her corner, Linda scoffed. "What work? Sweeping parking lots? Washing toilets?" Jonathan looked at her calmly. "Security work. It's honest." Linda burst into laughter. "Jonathan, you are finished. Now you want me to follow a security guard and live in a box under someone's staircase?" "I didn't ask you to follow me," he replied. "You made your choice." She said nothing more. That afternoon, Jonathan and Noah left the village with nothing but 2 bags, 2 shirts each, and the weight of betrayal left behind. The bus ride to the city was long and dusty. Noah didn't ask questions. He just watched his father's face. Calm, firm, but bruised in ways words couldn't explain. When they got off the bus, Noah looked around in confusion. The streets they entered weren't crowded slums or worker dorms. They were wide, clean, and lined with security cameras and garden hedges. Then they stopped in front of a gate, tall, black, with a crest carved in gold. "Dad, what is this place?" Noah asked. Jonathan smiled, pulled out a remote, and pressed it. The gate opened automatically. They stepped into the compound. Lush gardens, a marble driveway, and a massive white mansion that looked like something out of a billionaire's Instagram feed. Noah's jaw dropped. "Dad, whose house is this?" Jonathan turned slowly, his voice steady. "Ours." Noah blinked. "I don't understand." Jonathan took a breath. "I never lost our wealth, Noah. I'm still a billionaire. I only hid it because I needed to know the truth." Noah froze. The silence between them deepened. You lied to us?" "Yes, but only because I needed to know who still loved me when everything was gone. And you, Noah, you never left." Noah's throat tightened, his eyes blurred with tears. "Dad, I stayed because you're my father, not because of money." Jonathan stepped forward and hugged his son tightly. "That's why you're the only one who deserves to be here." Inside, the house was even grander than their old one. A spiral staircase led to the bedrooms. Art lined the hallways. The scent of fresh flowers filled the air. Noah walked through in awe. "It's all ours." "Every inch." "What about Mom? Emily?" Jonathan's face hardened slightly. "They made their choice. They walked away from love, from truth, for the illusion of power and quick pleasure." Noah sat on the edge of a velvet couch, still stunned. "I wish they had seen what really matters." Jonathan nodded. "So do I." Meanwhile, back in the village, Linda and Emily sat in the dusty compound, the heat pressing down like judgment. They were laughing at a joke when a man approached the gate. Samuel, the village talker, stood with a newspaper in hand and breathless urgency in his voice. "Madam Linda, Sister Emily, I just got back from the city." Linda rolled her eyes. "Spare us your tales, Samuel." "No, this is serious. I saw your husband, Mr. Jonathan. He's not poor. He's back in a big mansion. Marble floors, fountains, black cars. He lives like a king." Emily snorted. "Our dad, in a mansion again? Must be someone else." "I swear on my life, it's real. I saw Noah with him. They looked rich, like before. No, richer." Linda burst into laughter. "Let me guess. He's president now too?" Samuel frowned. "I'm not joking. Ask anyone. He's back." Emily waved him off. "Maybe he's working as a houseboy in that mansion. You ever think of that?" "I saw him open the gate with a remote. Maybe he was hired to clean it." Linda crossed her arms. "Even if it's true, what does it matter now? That man will never make it again." Samuel stared at them, shocked by their pride. "You don't care?" "He's nothing to us," Emily said. "He's a failure," Linda added. "Let him enjoy his pretend kingdom." Samuel shook his head, heart heavy. "I just thought maybe you'd want to know, before it's too late." He turned and left, and still, they laughed. Back in the city, Jonathan and Noah were settling in. Noah looked at his father across the dinner table. "Are you going to tell them the truth?" Jonathan shook his head. "They don't deserve it. Truth is a gift, and they threw it away." Noah's eyes dropped. "It still hurts, though." Jonathan sighed. "I know, but sometimes the people who hurt you are the ones who taught you what never to become." That night, Jonathan sat in the garden behind the house, wine in hand, phone in the other. He looked at a photo, old and faded, of Linda and Emily laughing on a yacht. He didn't smile. He deleted it. Then for the first time in months, he slept in peace. Back in the village, the sun was merciless, and the gossip hotter than the weather. The tale of Jonathan's return to power had spread like wildfire. And while most villagers shrugged in awe or whispered prayers of jealousy, Linda and Emily mocked it with laughter and denial. They sat outside fanning themselves with old magazines, refusing to believe a word of it. "If he was really rich again," Emily said, "he would have come crawling back by now." "Exactly," Linda snorted. "Besides, I'm not going anywhere. Mr. Okoro will soon send for me again. You'll see." But Mr. Okoro had disappeared. After the street fight and the whispers of fake gold, he stopped answering calls, stopped meeting her at the lodge, and even his signature cologne scent had vanished from the air. His promises turned to dust. Meanwhile, the new house he claimed he was building for her, just an empty lot behind the pigsty. Linda was still clinging to the illusion. He must be busy. Chiefs have a lot to handle. But even Emily had started to doubt. That evening, as the sky turned amber and the wind picked up dust, a familiar voice returned to the compound. Samuel. This time he wasn't smiling. He held a folded flyer in his hand, slick with sweat and city dust. "Madam Linda, I came to warn you." "Again?" She sighed. "You need to see this." He handed her the flyer. It was an invitation, a printed one, clean, elegant. Grand opening of the Carter King Foundation for Integrity, Family, and Second Chances. With a picture beneath, Jonathan in a tuxedo, Noah beside him, both smiling proudly. Linda's hands trembled. "What is this?" "It's happening this weekend, in the city. Everyone important will be there. He's started a foundation, named after himself and your son." Emily leaned in, eyes wide. "He used Noah's name?" Samuel nodded. "He's made him a partner, a public face. Everyone in town is talking about how the son stood by his father when the wife and daughter vanished." Linda's lip curled. "What is this? Revenge?" "No," Samuel said simply. "It's reality." He looked at them both, two women who had mocked him just days before, and gave a small, sad smile. "I told you the truth. Now the whole world knows it." And he walked away. That night, Linda didn't sleep. She sat by the small window of the clay house, staring into the dark, her mind racing. She remembered the night Jonathan cried quietly in the dark, the way Noah held his hand in silence, the way she rolled her eyes. And now he had risen. Without her. Emily tossed and turned on the mat beside her. "Mom," she whispered, "do you think we were wrong?" Linda didn't answer at first. "I think," she finally said, "we chose comfort over character." Emily said nothing more. For the first time since they arrived in the village, the silence between them wasn't full of arrogance. It was full of regret. 2 days later, Linda stood at the edge of the village road with a small bag in hand. She was wearing her best wrapper. No perfume, no gold, just quiet desperation. "Where are you going?" Emily asked. "To the city," Linda replied, "to try and apologize." "Do you think he'll even listen?" "I don't know." "Want me to come?" Linda looked at her daughter for a long moment. "Not yet. Let me go first." Meanwhile, in the city, the grand hall was lit with crystal chandeliers. The Carter King Foundation launch was in full swing. Politicians, philanthropists, journalists, all gathered to honor the man who had lost everything and still rebuilt from love. Jonathan gave his speech with Noah by his side. "This foundation isn't about wealth," he said. "It's about what survives when wealth disappears. Family, loyalty, integrity." The room applauded. Noah smiled beside his father, his eyes shining. Suddenly, from the edge of the room, a figure appeared. Linda, hair tied back, clothes simple, face bare, eyes trembling. Jonathan paused. Noah saw her first, then Jonathan followed his gaze. The crowd turned, and for a moment, just a moment, time froze. Linda stepped forward, then slowly knelt in front of Jonathan. "I failed you," she said softly. "As a wife, as a woman. I let pride blind me. I threw you away because I thought money was the glue holding us together. But now I see, it was love, and I broke it." The room was silent. Jonathan looked down at the woman who once mocked his pain. "Why now?" "Because regret doesn't sleep," she whispered. "It haunts." "And what do you want from me?" he asked. "Nothing," she replied, eyes full of tears. "Only forgiveness." Noah looked up at his father, unsure of what to say. Jonathan exhaled. Then slowly, he reached down and helped her up. They didn't embrace. They didn't kiss. But when Jonathan said, "You may stay," the entire room understood. Forgiveness had begun. Later that night, Linda sat on the patio, watching the city lights glow. Noah brought her a cup of tea. "Thank you," she said. "We're not there yet," he replied. "But maybe one day." She smiled faintly. "That's enough." And inside the house, Jonathan stared at a framed photo of his family from long ago. Before the riches, before the lies, before the test. He turned to Noah. "Tomorrow, we start again." Emily sat alone on the cracked wooden bench outside the mud house, her fingers running over her phone's lifeless screen. No signal, no data, no likes, no validation, just silence. Her mother had left for the city 2 days ago, and there had been no word since. Emily hadn't told anyone, But the night after Linda left, she'd cried herself to sleep. Not because she missed luxury, but because she missed belonging. Once, she had thousands of followers begging to know what brand of shoes she wore. Now, the only eyes on her were the chickens scratching in the dirt nearby. She glanced at herself in the shattered mirror hanging by the door. Her once glossy lips were dry. Her designer dress had become a faded wrapper. Her edges were frayed, inside and out. "What am I doing here?" she whispered. But no answer came. That evening, she walked to the village well, balancing a rusty bucket on her hip. The villagers barely looked at her now. Some smirked behind their hands. Some pitied her. But all remembered. They remembered the girl who once shouted at old women for being too local. The girl who called them dirt under her Dior. The girl who used to hiss at children and laugh at their ragged clothes. Now she was one of them. When she bent to draw water, a little girl passed by and giggled. Emily looked up sharply. "What are you laughing at?" The child blinked. "Nothing, Auntie." But Emily knew. And for the first time, she didn't snap back. Instead, she straightened up, bucket half full, and walked home in silence. That night she sat under the stars and whispered, "God, I don't know what I believe anymore, but if you're listening, I need help." A breeze rustled the trees, but there was no miracle, no phone call, no dramatic entrance, no apology from the world, just a thought, a simple, painful thought. Maybe it's not the world that needs to change. Maybe it's me. The next morning, she took out her old notebook, the one she used to write ideas for fashion content. Instead, she opened a fresh page and titled it, "Things I've Done Wrong." She began to list them. Humiliated dad online, insulted villagers, laughed at poor people, dated married men, lied to myself, forgot who I was. By the time she reached the 10th line, she was crying. She hadn't cried like this since she was a little girl and scraped her knee falling off a bike. But this pain wasn't physical. It was soul deep. 3 days later, a black SUV arrived at the edge of the village. Jonathan stepped out. He wasn't dressed in a suit, no security detail, no media, just him. He walked the dusty path to the compound and stopped when he saw Emily, bent over, sweeping the yard. She looked up, frozen. For a moment, they stared at each other. Her eyes filled with tears. His face was unreadable. She dropped the broom and took a trembling step forward. "Dad!" "Emily!" She ran to him, fell to her knees, and clutched his legs. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He didn't move at first. Then slowly he reached down and lifted her up. "You hurt me," he said. "I know. You broke my heart." "I know," she whispered again, voice cracking. "But I'm your father. I still love you." She collapsed into his arms, sobbing. Back in the city that night, the three of them sat at the dinner table again. Jonathan, Noah, Emily. The same table that had once been cold with silence and filled only with the click of cutlery and the glow of phone screens was now warm with conversation and healing. Emily looked around the room and asked, "Will Mom come back?" Jonathan was quiet for a moment. "That's up to her, but this home will always have room for people who are ready to be honest again." In her room, Emily plugged in her phone for the first time in weeks. Notifications exploded. Thousands of unread messages, emails, collabs, fashion offers. But she turned it all off. She opened her camera, not to take a selfie, not to brag, but to speak. She went live and said this, "Hi everyone, I've been gone for a while, and I've learned something. When you lose everything, you find out who you really are. I hurt the people who loved me. I disrespected the people who had nothing, just because I had something. But now I know. The richest person isn't the one who has money. It's the one who has a soul that hasn't sold itself." And then she logged off. The city mansion no longer felt like a palace. It felt like a home. The marble floors were still there. The chandeliers still sparkled and the garden still bloomed. But it wasn't the wealth that made it warm. It was the people. For the first time in years, the dining room echoed with laughter, not silence. Jonathan sat at the head of the table, Noah beside him, and across from them, Emily, who no longer cared about her camera angle or lighting. She smiled because she meant it. She spoke because she wanted to connect. She stayed because she wanted to be there, not because of luxury. One Sunday afternoon, Jonathan called them both into the study. He sat at the massive mahogany desk, pulled out 2 documents and laid them on the table. "These," he said, "are partnership papers. One is for the Carter King Foundation. The other is for our new family business." Noah's eyes widened. "Family business?" Jonathan nodded. "Real estate, ethical housing. We're building homes, not just buildings. And I want both of you by my side." Emily hesitated. "Even after everything?" Jonathan looked at her. "Especially after everything." She swallowed hard. "I don't know the first thing about real estate." "You know how to speak, how to connect. You'll learn the rest." She blinked away tears. "I'd be honored." That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the house in golden hues, Jonathan stood in the backyard alone, staring up at the sky. A soft voice spoke behind him. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" He turned. Linda stood at the edge of the patio. No makeup, no perfume, just honesty. Jonathan didn't speak. He simply looked at her, waiting. She stepped forward slowly. "I know I don't deserve a second chance. I abandoned you. I mocked you. I made our name a joke." Jonathan's eyes were unreadable. "You hurt me." "I know." "You embarrassed me." "I know." "You slept with another man." Linda swallowed. "I was lost. I confused power for peace, money for meaning." A long silence. Then she looked him in the eye. "I'm not here to ask for my old life back. I'm here to say I've changed. And if you ever want to rebuild something new, I will stand beside you, even if it's at the back row of your life." Jonathan didn't reply. He simply turned, walked back toward the house, and left the door open behind him. Linda stepped inside. That night, the whole family sat together for the first time. Not forced, not faked. Jonathan, Linda, Noah, Emily. The house glowed with quiet forgiveness. 1 year later, the Carter King Foundation expanded to 5 cities. Noah became a public speaker for youth empowerment. Emily started a podcast for young women called Real, Raw, and Ready, sharing her journey from vanity to value. And Linda, she worked behind the scenes, helping single mothers find work, housing, and hope. But the biggest moment came when Jonathan stood at a gala fundraiser and made an announcement. "This time last year, I was pretending to be poor to test my family. But in doing so, I realized I had been poor in something much deeper. In truth, in love, in unity. Today, we're no longer pretending. We are building. Together. As one." The audience rose to their feet in applause. Emily wiped tears from her cheeks. Noah smiled with quiet pride. Linda clutched Jonathan's hand under the table. As they left the gala that night, Emily whispered, "Dad, are we really okay now?" Jonathan looked at her, then at Linda, then at Noah. "We're not perfect," he said, "but we're real. And that's more than enough." They stepped into the car, not as strangers bound by blood, but as a family reborn by fire. It began as a personal experiment, a test of love hidden under the ashes of wealth. But it ended as something far bigger than any of them imagined. The Carter King story had become a movement. Jonathan never set out to be famous, but the authenticity of his journey, rising, falling, and rising again, not alone, but with a family that had been shattered and sewn back together piece by painful piece, captured hearts around the country. News outlets called it the integrity test. Social media trended with hashtags like love over luxury and true family survives. But Jonathan wasn't interested in headlines. He was interested in impact. 3 years later, a new community center opened in a low-income neighborhood of Dallas. Kids played soccer in the back. Single mothers were learning how to manage small businesses inside. Families who had once been on the brink of collapse now had roofs over their heads, and more importantly, hope in their hands. At the front of the building stood a statue, not of Jonathan, but of a father kneeling to hug a child, with the inscription, "Loyalty is the only wealth that multiplies when given freely." Inside, Noah stood at a podium, taller now, voice steady. "My father taught me that money can build houses, but loyalty builds homes. He tested us, and only one of us stayed. But in staying, I learned something. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the most powerful form of strength." Applause filled the room. In the front row, Jonathan wiped a tear discreetly. Beside him, Linda held his hand. Her grip wasn't possessive. It was grateful. Emily sat on his other side, holding a notepad. Her speech would come next. This time not to show off, but to speak truth. Later that night, back at the mansion, Jonathan stood by the same window he once stared through when his heart was full of silence and suspicion. But tonight, the silence was peace. Noah joined him, sipping tea. "You okay, Dad?" Jonathan nodded. "I think I am. For the first time. In a long time. Do you ever regret the test?" Jonathan was quiet. Then he said, "I regret that I had to do it, but not that I did it." Noah nodded slowly. "Would you do it again?" Jonathan smiled. "I wouldn't need to. Now I know who we are." In Emily's room, she was finishing the last chapter of her first book. Title, From Likes to Loyalty, What My Father Taught Me About Love. Her publisher had already confirmed a nationwide release, but it wasn't the fame that thrilled her. It was truth-telling. And this time her followers weren't there for fashion. They were there for her heart. Down the hallway, Linda placed fresh flowers at the base of a new family photo. The four of them standing in front of their mansion. Not posing, not perfect, but real. She whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you for breaking me enough to rebuild. Some lessons can only be learned when everything is taken away." Jonathan lost the illusion, but he found the truth, loyalty, and unconditional love from his son. His wife, Linda, once sold her dignity for a few cheap dollars. His daughter, Emily, once mocked her own father because there was no more Wi-Fi or designer shoes. But time reveals all. The fake ones will leave. The real ones will stay. And family is who chooses to love you even when you have nothing left. This story isn't just about a billionaire. It's a wake-up call. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, share it, talk about it, think about it, and ask yourself, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?